Consolidated, Outland, Kruger Intergalactic, and Tumbrel. So 3 manufacturers that aren't exactly marquee manufacturers in the Star Citizen universe, though they do have some interesting offerings. Now, Kruger Intergalactic, which I believe also manufactures weapons, manufactures the Merlin or the Archimedes, which attach to various versions of the Constellation. Now, you know how I feel about the Constellation, but it is important to acknowledge the fact that these ships could make the Constellation somewhat better, but the fact is they don't have a jump drive. So they really aren't all that interesting as far as ships go. They're actually, it's kind of like it's a mechanic that doesn't work attached to a ship that doesn't work. So you buy like a Merlin, you just end up taking it off from a landing site, zipping it around for a couple of minutes, going like, oh well, that was interesting, and then you park it again. So maybe in the future it'll see some use, but right now, not really. Now, Consolidated Outland really is kind of the star of all 3, being the most significant manufacturer, though many of their offerings may not seem all that significant. But you come over here to the Mustang Delta, this could actually be something that, in my mind, competes very strongly with the Aurora Legionnaire that we talked about yesterday. With 4 guns and the rocket pods that it enjoys still intact, this, along with the auto gimbal feature in Star Citizen, is something that I think pairs up very well in Star Citizen currently. You do have those rocket pods that do a lot of damage. The fighter, I don't know how it flies now, but in the old days, it actually used to fly very well before it got the revamp. I'm not too sure how it handles, but that is definitely something I would look into. If you're looking for an entry-level, more military-focused ship, the Mustang Delta, to me, is a pretty strong offering. It is a pretty decent ship, but of course, Consolidated Outland, you can't really talk about them without talking about, the elephant in the room, quite literally, the Pioneer. Now, the Pioneer looks like it belongs in the Homeworld universe. It is a ship that I would say has a very, very strong influence from Homeworld. And to be perfectly honest, I almost kind of wish that this is what the pocket carrier ended up looking like. If you could replace that central area with a flight deck, it would almost be perfect for that. But it is not used as a carrier, really. It does have the little landing pad, but it is used to manufacture bases on the surface of planets. And that kind of makes it very interesting for the future. You'll hear me say that a lot. Like, in the future, this could be actually quite interesting, and that's true of so many things in Star Citizen, but it is just not here now. Now, the possibility of building your own base on the surface of a moon, whether it's there for refining chemicals, creating drugs, creating whatever, that is going to be something that is going to be very, very interesting to a lot of players, and something that's going to be pursued by a lot of players. And that could make this ship, in the long term, a very strong purchase, because there's going to be a lot of people out there who need to build their own bases, to build their own private little drug labs or manufacturing facilities, whether legal or illegal. And this could end up being quite a lucrative career for the people who own this ship, because this is the only thing that we have currently that can really deploy something like that when it becomes available in game. And that also is the problem when it becomes available in the game, because one, you need the ship, which is nowhere near going into production. We have heard nothing about this, and I have heard no whispers that this is even being looked at. So we're talking about something down the road and over the horizon. This is probably not something that you are going to see for yet another 2 years easily, where we might see the possibility of building a base on the surface of a planet through other means in the meantime. The ship itself is obviously very large. It represents the first of the very big ships from a manufacturer, and so there isn't much of a style guide in these little ships to cover that. So chances are we're probably not going to see the Pioneer for a long time. And that, along with the game mechanic that it plays around with, aren't something that we are currently looking at right now. It's not something that we're actively talking about. It's not something that is even on the roadmap in any way, so the ship or the mechanic. So it is an investment in the future. It is kind of a gamble, a faith, exercise to basically say, hey, I know that this is going to turn out to be important one day, but right now it is not that day. Now, speaking of ships that you buy for what they are going to be in the future, ground vehicles as well, the Tumbril Cyclone is in that category. Currently, there are some issues with the Tumbril Cyclone. Certainly, when it was originally released in the game, there were a number of issues. I actually owned one of these at one point, and the first time I took it out, I did one little jump off of a dune onto another, and both the rear wheels immediately fell off of the vehicle. But once again, you're buying these things for what they are going to be in the future. So even though it may be plagued with issues and inconvenient to load on your ship, at some point in the future, we are supposed to be able to call in a ship, and then where one of these vehicles is possible to be preloaded onto that vehicle, you will be able to do so. So it could make it a lot more interesting. Now, the turreted model currently apparently does not work. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. But at some point in the future, when you're doing ground missions or raiding the bunker, the turreted model could come in pretty darn handy. So it is yet another one of these vehicles that in the future could actually be quite beneficial to bring around. But currently, yeah, it's kind of more of a toy. But in the future, it could be something that you're very happy that you own. Especially in my mind, the turreted model, I think, would probably be the strongest offering. Though I'm not sure if it does have any cargo capacity or if that is eliminated with the turret. And that's kind of, you'll notice that that's a common thread with a lot of these things. Apart from these ships here, the Mustang and its variants, a lot of these vehicles, a lot of the things that we're going to talk about with these manufacturers are dependent on things that just aren't in game yet. The Tumbril Cyclone is dependent on the ability to preload it onto a ship and take it where it needs to go. The Kruger, Merlin is dependent on its ability to dock with the Constellation being put in the game, which is once again something that we have not yet seen. With the Pioneer, we're waiting for not only the mechanic that allows you to purchase a plot of land on a moon or other space body, but also the ability to install, manufacture a base at that location and the ship that can do it. So there's a lot of things that need to come together for a lot of the more flashy things in these manufacturers' lineups to really kind of become more, less of a curiosity and more of an actual functional piece of equipment with a functional mechanic to go along with it in the Star Citizen universe. A lot of these things currently are not priorities, so when we talk about you're buying something for what it's going to be in the future, that future is not an immediate future. That future is not something that you are likely going to see much of in the next 2 years. So that is something to bear in mind when you are purchasing from any of these manufacturers. Unless you are purchasing the Mustang, you are truly playing the long game. Anyways, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in the Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.